And I always record my audio as well on another separate platform just in case.
Yeah,
So if you're ready, in 3, 2, 1. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. Today with me, I have a special guest. His name is Sigmar Berg, and he is an Austrian-American entrepreneur, artist, photographer, and fashion designer. He is the creator of the Lovetuner, which is a mindfulness tool that transmits the frequency of 5 to 8 hertz, known as the frequency of love and divine healing. Sigmar had a successful career and social life that he left behind to experience a spiritual awakening, which led him to his divine mission of love and creating the Lovetuner. And today, Sigmar and I are going to be talking all about healing frequencies and how they actually work to heal us. And we're going to talk a lot about Sigmar's mission. And I personally am very, very passionate about this topic. I feel like the world needs just a little more love, don't you?
absolutely. Sandy,
Welcome.
having you on being on your show. And like you have been already a great advocate. And yeah, let's talk about frequency and vibration.
Yeah, let's get into it. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. And you have a really interesting background. Why don't you tell us about this?
The love tuna background or my entire story.
I guess how did that weave into because you're a former fashion designer. You are like, I mean, how did this all happen?
Yeah, so so my background was like I'm Austrian. I started architecture, became an artist, and ended up doing fashion. And in along this way, like I got into meditation, and especially after relocating to the United States, like whatever, nearly 18 years ago, I constantly meditated. So I learned it from a shaman, and it really helped me a lot. And then I did my first sound meditation. And this sound meditation was really like opening up my eyes and even understanding frequency and vibration, what it did. And it was so dominant to me because like meditating was okay. And I had a very busy life, as you said, I was running a fashion company, traveling a lot, like being very social, being in in whatever we do, like in our daily lives, distracted. And then I found like, okay, meditating is great. And I always did a lot of sports. I was a professional swimmer at one point. So for me, breath work was actually natural. So I understand like how to regulate your system by breathing. And when I did my first meditation with the 528 hertz frequency over sound speakers, it was for me like a total open. I said, I'm really interested in this. What is in there? And a friend of mine back then that I lost contact over many years was already working on 528 hertz on the Lovetuner. And and he told me more and more about it. And I said, listen, we need to get this in a form that everybody can have it. And as I was a product designer, we launched this product now nearly over 10 years ago, but we did not put any effort into this. For us, it was not about, and for me especially, it was not about like creating the next whatever esoteric gimmick. It was about really having something that makes it easy for people to connect and literally understand vibration and frequency because that's what it's all about. And we constantly talk about when something is negative. You walk on the street, you have street noise, you go like, oh my God. But we never talk about what is really soothing for us, what really helps us, what relaxes us. We, for example, constantly accept bad frequency. You know what I mean? And this was actually my journey when I went into this whole thing, and we had no clue where we even tapping into it was so big. I had no understanding that our musical scale at one point got recalibrated, that we like, we out of tune. So it became a big thing, and that as we talked earlier, before we started the podcast, it's also something that has an impact on society. Like if you're aware of frequency and vibration, then you really can say, okay, is this good for me or is this bad for me? And the more the people are humbled and in a good vibe, they also vibe on a good vibe. What comes around goes around. And this is the whole simple thing about this, about frequency and vibration in combination with breath work. And this was like literally what guided me into my own spiritual path. Like I was always interested. I traveled a lot. I was a lot in South America, Asia, long before I started the Lovetuner. And I had somehow this sleeping in me, because it's not something where you go like one day you wake up and go, oh, I'm gonna do frequency and vibration. It's something that is in you. And at one point, it's just the right time in life. And I think this happened to me like about more than 10 years ago. And yeah, this is the journey I'm on.
That's very, very cool. And I find it interesting that, you know, you said you didn't just wake up. And I do feel like, starting to be exploring meditation and meditating, because I've used many different tools to help me meditate, because I'm always like, am I doing it? Am I even in a meditative state? And so it all began, maybe you heard of it, Muse, the meditation headband Muse. That's how all of that began with me. Cause I'm not like one of those people who could just sit there and go, okay, I'm meditating. But I do find it fascinating how you mentioned we get hit with many different negative frequencies. And here's just a thought. You know how in a relationship, if you don't say enough positive things or give enough affirmation, all they hear is the negative? I would think this is the same kind of concept with frequencies. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so, like, when the entire knowledge that I gathered at the beginning was from Emoto, because he wrote this book. I don't know if you know, Hidden Messages in Water.
I have
And
it. I have the book. Yes.
this is a genius book for one reason. It's not even about the science in it, but just to see the reaction. And this is very clear. Like if you talk to water and you swear and whatever, it changes its structure. And you can measure this and see it under the microscope. So we are like 75 to whatever, 80% water in our body. Blood is 91%. So when we are exposed to frequency, we react to it. And this is why, for example, when cops get trained, this is why a cop approaches you in a way like being loud, like boom, there's like right away a frequency that goes towards someone. And this is what we need to understand. We react on frequency. And if you constantly say bad words, if you constantly fight, it really sickens your entire system. And this is why, we talk about toxic relation, we talk about, like bad communication. But this is really where it all comes down to it. You need to be very careful about the frequency you're sending out. I mean, I'm not saying when you have a bad relation, you should stay in it and say nice words, then you just, whatever, split, divorce. We know all these possibilities that we have. But at the end of the day, it comes down to also to the self-talk, and the self-talk is very important. So when you swear at yourself and you wake up in the morning, and the first word is something swearing, like, oh, fuck, I need to go to work or whatever,
Yeah.
uh, that's not the attitude, like and it sets the tone of the day, and if this is the tone of the day, I believe me, you will be in resonance with exactly this frequency, with swearing, with being upset, being angry. But if you wake up, even if it's not the best day in the world and it's a Monday morning, but you still can build up your own vibration. You can say, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm taking in my first breath, not the first breath because you're breathing all the time, but the first conscious breath. And then you start your vibration, you build it up. And this is why, for example, and I mean, it's not about promoting this product, it's really about understanding what frequency does and what vibration does. And what is the easiest thing if you wake up and you tune into a frequency? And don't even think too much about it. Just do a breathing break, because breath work, we all know how beneficial it is. You connect to this frequency and you're setting basically the tone of the day. And it doesn't mean that you might have some negative experiences, but it gives you a different perspective to things, and all the time during the day, you can go back to the state of mind. Either you have your own mind hack where you can zoom out, or you use a Lovetuner, whatever is your modality, not to get sucked into bad vibrations. And this is what we need to be very careful of. And we are so exposed to, I mean, I don't want to rattle off about 5G networks and cell phones because we all know that this is not healthy, and Wi-Fi networks. But this is just a part of our society, and it's a very convenient. It's very convenient. I mean, we all work from home, and we have the possibility to travel, do our work from the phone. So that's all good. But we also need to be aware of this is all frequency,
Yes.
and it's not a healthy frequency. So if you have time to put your phone away consciously, like when you come home, put your phone away, like try to be with your family or even by yourself, expose yourself to something. What is a good frequency? Hug a tree, like, I mean, it sounds so hippie-esque, but that's really what it is. I mean, trees are here and leaves are here to heal us. And if we get more into tune, take your shoes off, ground yourself. These kind of things that make you really happy, and this is when you understand this and when you get fine-tuned to it, because a lot of people are so far gone that they can tune, they can do whatever they want to do. They will have no experience, because their vibration is so shut down that basically everything is about what they own, what they do, and it's not about being. And this is the only state where humans are happy. You can buy whatever depending on how much money you have. You can do whatever depending on how much money you have, but you can always distract from actual being. But the real happiness is when you start to just be, like this whole I am thing, when you really embrace who you are, what you're doing, and you come to a halt, and then you still might adjust in life, and we all have the hassle of the daily life. But if you're already pretty happy by just being, then everything else is just a benefit to it, and this is why it's so important to be really aware of your own vibration, to protect against negative frequency, and just to vibe higher, like and you see it on the street. I mean, a smile can change so much, and
Yeah. And you mentioned something like there is such a thing. Unfortunately, I have to be on social media a lot. There's such a thing as vibe, oh, vibe high. And I think you have to work at it. And I think especially given how we live, given like what you were saying, we have Wi-Fi, we have constant, somebody can get a hold of you all the time. I mean, I think you and I kind of grew up in the same time frame era. And, we grew up back in the day where your parents would yell out the door for you to come home. And, we were outside playing in the park with the trees. It was very different than how kids grow up now. And so we have to make more of a conscious effort to vibe high. We have to do more to get to that frequency. Would you agree?
absolutely, absolutely. And you're just matching like the generation where we grew up in. And I don't even want to judge if it's better or worse, but I tell you one thing, it was for sure more grounding. It was more real. It was more authentic. And when authenticity goes away, everything becomes nothing. It's just like there's no value to it anymore. And this is why I think this is where we need to come back to being authentic, to be authentic about our feelings, but also to be authentic about, being of service and doing stuff. You cannot just receive, it's a take and give. And when you look back into the older generations, I was happy to have a grandma. And she did for something what I way later on understood. Every time when I was like freaking out as a kid, she was the only one. She said, take a breath. And this already, I mean, nobody says this anymore, like this is the basic. I mean, we are very complex as a human and as our body, but we also have very basic mechanisms that we can, access to change our state of mind. And when you tell a child like, hey, take a breath, exhale, like calm down. Now tell me what's going on. You will see it shifts the entire energy. It will shift the vibration of the kid. And when you want to take it to the next step is, why don't you become a resonance body for your kid? Take your kid and just hum with them. And this is what my grandma always did. And now I understand, oh my God, she was a resonance body. She gave me like a hug and she was humming, like, I mean, how beautiful is this? And this is what we should really do. Like, and if we have this understanding, it's like it doesn't go away. You can be whatever, the toughest person in the world. But if somebody hugs you and hums with you, I mean, you need to be a monster not to open your heart. And
Yeah.
and this is what we just need to let in. And this is, I think, what our kids need, what we need is just a hug sometimes and a humming and just like, connecting on a heart level.
Yeah. Instead of, I'm listen, most of the people who listen to my podcast have older kids, but, even when my kids were growing up, you see parents who would just throw an iPhone or an iPad at them. And, you know, this is just a little story, but I think you'll be able to appreciate this, Sigmar. When my daughter was little, she would get home from school and I'm sure people at that time, because she's now 19, so she was very little. When you see kids and their energy, they're literally like flying and bouncing off the walls when they get home from school. I would sit down with my daughter. I would get a chair facing her and I would put my toes on her toes and I would hold her hands in the middle and I would just ask her specific like questions like, who did you have lunch with today? Did you enjoy your time with so and so? And she would resist because I'm trying to ground her so that she can feel better at home instead of having that energy flying all over the place. And now that I look back, because that was a long time ago, I'm like, wow. I feel like almost like your grandmother. Like, I was trying to help her ground and learn what it feels like in your skin. Because we live in this world of anxiety where everybody's, giving themselves a diagnosis of ADHD or anxiety or, without looking inward on how we can help ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, this like talking about anxiety, I mean, our society is really stressful. But if you go back, like, let's say 100 or 200 years, I mean, these people really had stress, you know what I mean? Like if you talk about anxiety, because 200 years ago, you could have been killed somewhere, you know what I mean? It was not a regulated society. And people like whatever conquering the West in the United States, you walked outside a grizzly bear, and this is real danger, you know what I mean? And now we wake up and people have anxiety and have real problems that are just like nothing gonna happen, you know what I mean? And this is what we need to understand. And we are still wired as if been living in the caves, like so we're still wired on a fight and flight mode. And if we understand how we are wired, we can do something about it. So, for example, breath work is the most important thing when something comes up, because what it helps you is you have two nervous system, parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. If you do a conscious breathing break, if you arrive in the here and now, it disconnects, and it takes you out of the fight and flight mode, and it helps you with stress and anxiety. And the most important thing is, if you know already that you suffer from anxiety, don't take it to the next level. You just need to work hard on it. And this is spirituality or mental wellness, well-being in general works in the same way as everything. If you want to become the best, I don't know, professor in mathematics, you need to study a lot. If you want to become the best swimmer in the world, you better swim a lot. So it's whatever you do. And this is like when people go like, I change my life tomorrow, I buy a membership in a gym or I go to a yoga class every day. That's a great thing, but you need to go there. You need to do it. And this is the same thing with spiritual practices. You need to do it. And it's not something like, oh, I got it. I do it once. And when I feel bad in 3 weeks, I do it again. It's something constantly, and it's important to do it constantly. And it's also very rewarding, and obviously, like when you learn difficult sports, like it takes a while, and at one point you go like, oh my God, that's the best thing I ever did. And this is the same thing with spirituality, like it's it's sometimes very depressing for people, especially when they start meditating, because you do something, you have little to no effect at the beginning, and then you need to spend so much time with it, and then comes the point where you go like, oh, I got it, it's so cool. And then comes the next week and everything is not cool, and this is where you need to stick in. This is where you transform stuff. This is where things come up. But at one point you have it so integrated in your life, and this is what changes you. This what really makes life worth living.
And then that's your go-to. You have something, you have a tool that you can always go to, well, when you need it or even when you don't need it. And you never reach, and I say that too about spirituality, even about health, because obviously I talk a lot about health. You never reach a summit. You never reach the top and then say, "All right, I'm done." You're
Yeah.
never done. It's like being a lifelong learner. You have to continuously practice because you're going to get new little nuggets and new little findings every time you practice it, I feel.
Yeah, and absolutely. And this is the most important thing. And when you understand this, like it's not a competition, It's just like everybody is on their own journey. And like what you mentioned earlier in my book, I call it One Journey. And this is also the slogan of our company, because it's really your journey, it's one journey. I mean, and everybody is on this journey in a certain way. But if this becomes your thing, like you will look to the left and to the right, and you will see a lot of other people being on their journey. And at one point, it's a journey inward. It's connecting to your heart, getting out of your head into your heart. And on a heart level, we can all connect, because
Mhm.
this is our hearts are always curious, like our intellect separates us. You look at me and said, why is he wearing a stupid trucker hat? Like this is all this stuff what we have implemented in us. This is just like intellect separates us. We judge and so on and so on. But on a heart level, we are totally curious. Humans are curious. Hearts wants to connect. And this is where we should go back to. And this is where it's so important for the younger generations to really understand this, because Dalai Lama said, if every 8-year-old would meditate, the next generation would have no war, because this is the understanding. It's the understanding that everything is connected, because on a heart level, we're all connected. And if we understand that we're all connected, then we understand this one is all and all is one. And when you understand this, then there is no escape in a way like, I get more than the other person. Yeah, you might get more financially, but overall, it's all equal. It all balances out. And there's a lot of discussion about karma, and we just talked about social media, and people always get about the bad karma and whatever comes, but it's way simpler than it is. Like it's, I don't want to go into the Bible or stuff like this, but if you don't want this for yourself, don't do it to anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Simple.
and, and that's just what it is. And also, um, with when you said earlier, like everybody does more like self-diagnosis. I have anxiety, I have this and that, and I'm bipolar and whatever. It's also something like when you go back 20, 30, 40, 50 years, nobody went out and said, I have an issue with this or that. People have been coping with their own thing. And now it's just the thing, I have this and that. And basically, yeah, then you need to deal with it. I mean, it's sad, but you need to deal with it. And it's not about sharing, because you're sharing a consciousness, what is unhealthy, you know? Why don't you tell us how beautiful you are? Why don't you tell us how happy you are? You know what I mean? And or tell us how you overcame something bad. Why don't you have to put it in our face what is not right with you? And
Yeah.
and this is something like, like it's, and if we are conscious about this, then we also go like, hey, where does my freedom start? Where does your freedom end? In a way, like having healthy boundaries, like being, no, you don't have to share this with me, like keep it to yourself. This is like you're crossing boundaries, and this is not necessary. And I think this is when we talk about finding your own vibration, that's real work. You go in and till you really carve out what vibes with you, what is your vibration, no matter if it's good or bad. I mean, there's no bad vibration, but it cannot be in harmony. So then it's dissonance. But what we want is we want to be in harmony. So as much as we can, we want to have a harmonic life. And stuff what is in dissonance with us, we just need to learn to avoid. And this is like and you will have no new experiences if you do it over and over in the same old way. And this starts even in families, but with friends, sometimes you have friends that just don't want to go on a journey, or, and then you have these nostalgic friends where you go like, I know them from so long, they're super cool people, they're not on my journey, or they're doing something different. What it is like, you need to be aware of this, and this is like, when you look at, I just came back from a trip and my flight was delayed. And I always say this, like, when the gates are occupied, no new plane can land. And this is the same thing when we are occupied with whatever it is, social media, made up BS, then we are not open to receive something new. So we need to let all those planes go first for new ones to land.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. And I like your hat. I
Thank
like
you.
it. I think it's very stylish, Sigmar. So
So,
let's get into, because people hear about this all the time, these solfeggio
yeah,
frequencies, because 528 hertz is one of them.
yeah,
Now, what are there, nine of them? And they all kind of do different things, right? And I know 528 is really a heart opener. And I
yeah.
think from what I researched, it's one of the most potent of the solfeggio frequencies. I never say it right.
Yeah, the solfeggio frequency originally started with like, they're all healing frequencies. So they're ancient healing frequencies. By the way, all frequencies are not man-made frequency. Like this is one thing. It's not that somebody composed those frequencies. They occur in nature. Like for example, the 528 hertz frequency is the same frequency on the light spectrum. So it's green. And this is why all our plants are green, because chlorophyll vibrates on 528 hertz.
So cool.
So, and the solfeggio frequencies have been different frequencies. At the beginning have been six, then they added three, and they're all in a mathematical perfect relation of sound and creation. And they have been used as healing frequencies over many centuries. For example, the Gregorian choirs have been chanting 600 after Christ on 528 hertz. Back then, this was our regular C note. And this is when people go like, hey, what happened with the frequency? Who discovered it? I mean, there's a lot of knowledge out there about it, and there have been scientists, but at the very beginning, this was our musical scale. So our musical scale was absolutely in harmony with the creation, with the source, with the universe, and within our internal system. And the Gregorian choirs have been healing and chanting in their churches many communities around the world, back then in Europe, obviously. And the church was the first institution that said, we don't like this. We don't want to have people in harmony. And literally is when the Gregorian choirs have not been allowed to chant anymore in these communities. And so when people always go back to the source, when was it discovered? Who invented 528 hertz? It was always there. It just got overwritten, it's got manipulated, and it kind of disappeared. And about 30 years ago, I think Dr. Horowitz brought this awareness back about the 528 hertz frequency. And he wrote a book about it, and he's a speaker and so on and so on. So it was literally, it's a forgotten knowledge. It's nothing new. It's not invented. And then it was, I think in 1978, was this Hans Gusto, is a Swiss scientist. He found this entire relation, planetary relation to those frequencies. So this is how everything became like kind of scientifically, but it's something like it was never invented. It was always there. And the 528 hertz is the most prominent one because it's the frequency of love, the DNA repair, or the miracle frequency. This is why Lovetuner is calibrated to 528 hertz.
Okay. So it's interesting because I've done a lot of work with frequencies. I've done 963 more for the pineal gland. But the just like what you're saying, these frequencies are all around us, right? Like we find them in nature. Like even a thunderstorm has a specific hertz, right? And but from what I understand, there's some research behind this as well that actually has been done to show that these frequencies actually can do specific things, right? It's not just, it's not just hearsay. We know it works.
It totally works. I mean, it's just like there's not much not. I mean, there's a lot of research out there. So, like in my book, I go very specific into a lot of research what was made, even from the UCLA. Like it has a positive impact about overcoming addiction, 528 hertz. Because it literally physically breaks down matter in your body, like we talked about, like addiction to alcohol. It helps you get over methanol addiction because this is what happens when you're an alcoholic and what happens in your body system. And it goes all the way to literally overriding DNA. I mean, and this is not something that is made up. These frequencies are powerful. It's just something what is so abstract to us because, as I said earlier, we are so disconnected to it that we don't even feel the bad vibes anymore. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And we just need to get open to it and come back to like, I mean, Tesla is long forgotten scientist. I mean, he says if you want to understand the universe, think in frequency and vibrations. And as we know, whatever, how many trillions of cells we have, it's all one vibrating energy. And this is what it is. Like we are vibrating. It's like there's nothing in this world what doesn't vibrate, and this is where we have the least knowledge about it. Like I would teach kids in the world, like in schools, to touch something and try to really feel and understand vibration of an object, like whatever, touch a tree, touch a leaf, whatever it is, touch water, to get this feeling, to be fine-tuned again, and then it's also easy where you go like, oh, I feel that this is not a good vibe for me. And I think it's more about not even the science, because the science is there. You can read many books about it. It's totally proven. It's about why are we not willing to accept this, Why are we not willing to close our eyes and just go beyond, oh, I can't see it, I can't smell it, I can't, whatever. Listen, that's a vibration, and everybody knows vibration. So why even doubt or even like, I mean, read all those books, go into the science, but change your attitude towards it. You cannot just say, what does this mean? Because everybody has been sitting in a car with a big headache after a long meeting or a stressful workday. So where do you think you got your headache from? From good vibrations? No, from bad vibrations.
I think it's
And
because we're just too distracted, Sigmar. As
yeah,
a whole, as a society, as a world, we're too distracted. We're constantly getting pinged. And I talk about this all the time. It's like, when you and I grew up, if we were working on something in school and we were researching a topic, we would break out the big Encyclopedia Britannicas and we would look through and we would research. And now I just have to type it into Google and boom, AI will give me everything I need to know in seconds. So, how much is that pinging my brain all day long if I don't take a break? And how good is that? I'm a human, I'm not a robot.
yeah, this is why we live in this constant overload, in this. This is why how you call it, digital detox is very important. You really put your phone away, and including me, I use it way too much.
Mhm.
It's a great way to work anywhere you are. You know, you constantly check in, you're always reachable, but it comes with a price, you know, and this is why you need to put this phone to the side and really dedicate time with your family, and also try to get your kids off those devices, because that's, for example, a really bad vibration. And you've never seen a kid being on the phone for 2 hours and then have a smile and jump around and be happy.
True.
Completely depressed, totally depleted, and he wants more, because that's what it is. And yeah, I mean, there's a big lobby out there. There's a lot of money to be made. And so this is why we need to be even extra careful with all the benefits these technologies have. We need to be careful how to regulate them for ourselves, for our children, and for the next generation, because they can take over. And this is what we don't want. You know, we want to be as much human as we can. You know, we want to have everything what life has to offer, and we don't want to be machines, you know, we don't want to have a chip implemented and all this stuff. I mean, it's a great like utopian idea, you know, like that but we already robots. What more do you want? You know what I mean? It's
True.
like,
True.
and this is like even going back in our generation. I mean, when we have been kids, we did not have this control mechanism. It was just like come back before it gets dark. You know what I mean? Nobody cared about anything. It was not even nobody talked about food. You know, like it's food was probably, I mean, at least in Europe, it was way healthier, and people ate whatever they wanted. It didn't become a big thing, and but you had extreme freedom. You know, like kids nowadays don't have freedom, and including me when my kids have been teenagers. At one point, we got this app where everybody knew where everybody is, and obviously, you also worry way too much. You know, like
True.
I mean, I think my mom really loved me, but she was never checking where I am because it was impossible. You know, like I mean, if you're not home by when it gets dark, yeah, people get worried. And this is what we need to really embrace again. You know, like to disconnect, to fine tune, to feel the vibrations, what is healing and good for us, and stop doubting it. And I see it so often because I mean, this is why I wrote this book. I have to show it here real quick. This is my book, and it's called One Journey, the Lovetuner book. And the main reason I was writing this book is because of all those questions about frequency and vibration. And I have never seen so much skepticism about something what is till the beginning of time. You know, everything started with the Big Bang. It's all sound and frequency and energy.
Hmm.
And and this is what people just need to wake up. It's like the I mean, this is the core of our life, you know what I mean? The heartbeat, you know, our breath, everything. And then to even doubt frequency and vibration is just, yeah, it's just not very smart.
So I just want to ask you because there's different ways to tap into these different frequencies.
Yeah.
Um, this is not the same as binaural beats.
No, binaural beats is actually a manipulation of your brain. So you play as whatever frequency you want to play. Obviously, you should play something what is healing, and then you have a frequency that overlaps that has a little bit of a different of a frequency, and it makes this wave, this sound wave, and it feels to us like if you would get a brain massage. So binary beats are super cool, and they can do a lot. It's like whatever you have, if you have someone that understands it, you can even compose it yourself. I had a nerve injury, for example, and a friend of mine that composed for me a frequency was 528 hertz. Then we did, I think, a 2 hertz difference, and then it overlapped, and it helped me regrow a nerve in no time. So
That's
it's like
amazing.
I had a really like a bad accident that cut at one of the main nerves in my hand, and people said you will never surf again. You will because I'm an artist. You will never paint again, and I just didn't want to settle with this. And then I said, listen, I'm doing frequency. This is what I do, and I did every morning with my headphones. So it was not a tune, it was like sound I was listening to, binary beats. And I was listening to it for 1.5 hours in the morning with my headphones, did all my emails, and I fell asleep to it for I don't know how long it was running, but at one point I fell asleep. And it regrow a nerve where they told me it will take years. Within not even a year, the nerve was regrown. So
Fascinating.
massage for our brain. So binary beats, again, it's a manipulation for our brain based on the different frequencies, but solfeggio frequencies as alone standing frequencies. So it's very different.
And then I was reading, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not 100% sure on this, but some famous musicians like the Beatles and Bob Marley have a lot of their music written in 528 hertz. And
Yes.
music can really change our vibration. So, so interesting because I am massive lover of music and I have very eclectic tastes. I'll listen to anything. And I tend to gravitate towards different music that I feel I need. So if I feel like I need to get a cry out because I just can't cry, I'll listen to music that will help me get that emotion dealt with so that I can move on. And what do you think about the power of music? And I think some music can be harmful too.
Yeah, so first of all, I mean, music is one of the most important things we have, like music and dancing. This is something so important to move, to get your chakras going. But when it comes to music, and especially when you talk about Imagine from John Lennon, it's the most known love and peace song now for whatever, over 50 years already. And he composed it in 528 hertz. So, and the reason Bob Marley did it and some other artists is because they had the knowledge. They knew exactly what I'm talking about right now, that our musical scale got changed. And they got the first time the church did it in the medieval. Uh, Adolf Hitler did it before the Second World War. They manipulated the musical scale. And then you got institutionalized through the Rockefeller Foundation. They changed it. And the entire musical scale is based on the A note. So an A back in the days was 444 hertz. And when you have A on 444, you have 528 hertz on the C note. So this is what those artists did. But this was nothing special. I mean, for them, it was special because it was already after our musical scale got manipulated. But this is how music was. Music was fully harmonic, fully healing. And that's why it's so important that humans listen to good music. And I'm not talking about your taste in music, but like harmonic music. And meanwhile, there's even software out there where you can run your music and it pitches it to 528 hertz. And there's a big movement out there. And I work with a lot of electronic DJs because the electronic music, and I mean, I listen to everything. I'm a big fan of country music and rock,
Me
whatever.
too. Me too.
Very, very open. I love reggae. But the electronic music right now is the music of the generation. And this music can really be changed easy because it's electronic. You can adjust your synthesizer and boom, you have harmonic music. And that's actually beautiful because this music can be the music of the spiritual revolution if you do it right. And this is why, I talk to a lot of DJs and I bring this awareness to musicians. And I say, listen, guys, it will sound the same, but it's just healing. This music will touch your heart. And this is why I can say this on your podcast to all the musicians out there. Please research what it means to be in tune and what it means to tune your instrument to 520 hertz because it will really change your music and how people will react to it because it
I
will be.
love that. Oh my God. Because, okay. I was one day, I was walking my dog, and I always walk my dog in the park. And then I usually come down across, there's a high school um, near where I'm walking home. And, like teenagers, they have their music blaring in the car. And I also like all kinds of music. This music was so angry, Sigmar. Like it was so like there was nothing that was melodic about it. And I found myself just wanting to go faster away from it because I think that these frequency, I'm very sensitive to energy. So when this is why whenever I record with somebody, I like to have a conversation. I don't just automatically go, okay, let's start. I like to connect and kind of energetically connect with people. And because I'm very sensitive to that. And I also feel when people connect, it makes for a better recording. But I'm sensitive to it. So I would guess that there's some music that I'm not saying it would harm anyone, but I'm just saying it could be less, I don't know, open heartish type music. I don't know how to describe it. Like, I don't want to criticize the music of all these teenagers these days,
I mean,
but
you are completely, because I mean, I write about this in my book, and this is like you can even play frequencies in a way, and they call it the devil's note, where it's really
oh,
not even atonal, but it does something negative. It's a negative frequency, and this really exists. And in Emoto, for example, he played some music to water, and the water completely destructured. And when you play the 528 hertz frequency, for example, even polluted water went back in their original hexagonal shape of a water crystal. So, and this is the same thing that happens in our body, and this is why it's so complex frequency and vibration, because it's all over the place. And this is why music, what we listen to, if this would be harmonic, it would be perfect for our system. The entire society would be more happy. And but all the knowledge that we have, what is out there, you can always manipulate frequencies. You can make exactly a frequency, like a lot of electronic devices have a certain frequency that does something to you, what is not good for you. End of story. And I mean, maybe it happened on accident. I mean, in big corporations, nothing happens on accident. There's a reason why frequencies are negative, because people have the knowledge. It's written since hundreds of years. It's out there. You know exactly which frequency you can expose to people, what is positive and what is negative. And we, just as a society, we need to wake up to this and go like, hey, listen, we don't want this. We want something that makes us feel good.
yes.
And I think, this is happiness is our birthright, and I think we should take it wherever we can get it, and I mean, it when you go into a room and you feel a certain vibration, and you go like, that's a good vibe or a bad vibe, or the
Totally.
same, you spend like whatever nice dinner with friends, and it's not even about what you talked about, but it's this vibration where you go away and you feel like uplifted, and you feel like, wow, that was really cool. This was a positive experience because it was a positive vibe. And also sometimes you leave a meeting or whatever it is, and you go like, oh, that was training. And that means the vibration wasn't right.
Yeah, it's true. And I I'm a nutritionist. I always look at different aspects of really, I'm going to say, because my book that I'm working on is called Bridging the Gap Between Science and Soul, because I feel like I'm always in the middle. Yes, I do believe in science, but I believe in a lot of things that it might not be 100% explainable. But the one thing that, if you're going to look at our bodies, we were talking about water and blood and what we're comprised of. And then there's electrolytes. We would die if our electrolytes were really off. That could kill us. Does that not say that we are electrical beings? We run on frequencies and electricity, right? So different things can throw us off very easily. So it's really a way at looking at all of these different frequencies and 528 and seeing it can have a massive impact on our overall wellness.
Yeah. And I mean, you just mentioned that you're a nutritionist. One really great advice is when you cook, for example, and like, I mean, I happen to have a very, very busy life, and I was eating in restaurants sometimes, whatever, straight for weeks. And then even when it's good restaurants, not I'm not charging the food right now, but it's the energy. Every time when I came home after a long trip, I was so happy to have a homemade meal, not because it tastes better or whatever. And I was lucky, I always got good food at home, but what it is, it's the energy. It's the person that makes this food. And often we also come home and, like nowadays, most women are working, and on top of it, they have the stress of running their family. So they're like two CEOs, they go to work and then they manage an entire family. So you have somebody coming home, preparing dinner, and there's a certain energy in there. They need to get rid of this energy because the energy goes right into the food. And what we figured out is like when you cook and you use the tuner and you tune, and the same thing is I do it often, like not regular, but I do it in the morning all the time. I tune my water. I take a glass of water, I tune it, and I have seen it under the microscope. We have it on our homepage on lovetuner.com. You literally see how water restructures, and you're drinking structured water. So it's like, and in the kitchen when you cook, it's not that you tune all the time and make it religious or whatever, and don't even think about spirituality. Just go like, oh, I had a stressful day. Now I'm cooking. I put my tune out. I tune 4 times 5, whatever you like, and then you cook. You turn the music on, and this creates energy, and this energy goes into the food that you serve your family.
I've been doing this actually using the Love Tuner every single morning. And I do it sometimes everybody's still asleep. I wake up very early. I go to bed early too. I'm like a baby. So but I'll quietly use it in the morning because I like to write in the morning. Often the sun is just rising and I'll use my Love Tuner and it's almost like it sets the pace for my day. And it actually helps me with my creativity as well. Because, like I was explaining, I'm kind of in the middle of the world of science and structure, but then I'm also in that creative side, which is really important to me. And then, and I actually talked about this before. It's really interesting. So you mentioned how many times I'm gonna for people who are watching this, I know you've got yours. This is mine. And it's just like a tiny little flute, but it incorporates not only the 528 hertz frequency, but also the breath work. So it's very different than what's out there. Do you want to talk about that, Sigmar?
So the love tuna basically like you comes in this cap. I mean, I have it on this little fancy leather thing here, but you pull it out and it's a single tone flute was calibrated to 528 hertz. I'm not playing it because for whatever reason, Zoom always filters it out. I think you will not hear it on your recording, but maybe you can add it later on. So what you basically do is you take this little single tone flute was calibrated to 528 hertz. You do a conscious breathing break. You inhale through your nose, you exhale through your mouth, and you should do at least like 6 cycles. And what it does, it basically, the breath work brings you in the here and now. And then the frequency is the healing part of it on top of it. And, um, and the 528 hertz frequency is understood the miracle frequency, the love frequency. So on a spiritual level, you are inviting love in your life. And it's the first, I mean, it's a patent product that I invented. And what it literally does, it combines breath work with sound healing. And it's a super easy device. You wear it around the neck and that's it. And there's a lot of stuff out there right now about breath work and a lot of stories, what people are telling. And you see all this glorified like metal straws where people pay $100. And I mean, you can go to Starbucks and cut one of those straws and just blow through it. And we, for example, we work with a hospital in Germany, and when people come back from lung diseases and they're building their lung strength, the lung volume, they get this like little plastic tubes where there's a little ball in there, and the doctor watches them how high they can blow it up, and they replace, for example, those devices in one hospital and use the Lovetuner because the Lovetuner gives you a perfect audible feedback on your breath work. So it's not about you need to watch anything or you just blow into a straw where you don't really know if you're doing it right. This thing gives you an audible feedback, and as long as the tone is steady and consistent, this is when your lung has a perfect flow. This is when you do the right breath work. Then you inhale again and make the tone again. So you hold a consistent long note. I mean, it's not a competition, but you should try to get whatever, at the beginning, 10, 15 seconds, and then you go all the way up, 30 seconds, so on and so on. And then you also see if you are in an anxious state of mind or if you're relaxed. Like, because when you don't think about anything, you will recognize that you can exhale way longer than if your thoughts are all over the place.
True.
And so like, I mean, I see this by myself and I tune now for so long already. But if something is really going on in your life and you go, I need my tuner, the first tune is kind of like a hectic tune. You really recognize, well, I'm not there. I'm barely doing 10 seconds. And then you go, oh, wait a minute. And then you inhale, exhale. And by doing it, and after the sixth cycle, you're really like relaxed, like you're in a balanced state of mind. And then most important, what I always tell people is the real power lays in the 30 seconds after the tuning session where you stay in total silence. So let everything fill in, like stay in the 30 seconds. And people always talk about, oh, I have no time for meditation. And I don't want to tell anybody shortcut your meditation, but love tuning or using the tuner is really a shortcut to it. So like when you go like into transcendental meditation, it takes at least 20 minutes. These six cycles can take whatever, depending on the exhale, a couple of minutes, but you're right there. You rebalance and then you continue whatever you have been doing before. And this is the most important thing of tuning because and this is what I recommend people. If you don't wear it like this, wear it under your shirt or have it in your pocket, but have it next to you because tuning in the morning is great for setting the tone. Tuning in the evening is great, like to phase out like the day. But in between, we have so much time, where we actually can always recalibrate. You sit in the car, you're late for an appointment. I mean, you cannot close your eyes, but let's do 3 cycles in the car real quick, and you will see it changes everything like in no time. And we just need to integrate stuff like this, because um, ignorance doesn't lead us to anywhere. Like we need to see, okay, this is an option we have. If we do it regular, it recalibrates our body. And I mean, you tune now since a while.
Yeah.
And when you recognize now after tuning, you feel that your system is calibrated. It just feels differently. And often it is the most important thing is to keep on doing it. So I see often people that go in and go like, oh, it really helped me so much. And then they forget it somewhere. They don't do it for 3 weeks. And then they come back and go like, wow, I really felt it after 3 weeks that I need it. And then they tell me, but it was so frustrating because I had to start from scratch again. I mean, it's not really scratch, but it's important to stay calibrated. It's like, and this combination of sound and breath work, and you become your own composer, you become your own resonance machine, like and I told you my first meditation experience with 528 hertz was through a speaker. So I was meditating. The person put us through a guided breathwork session with the sound, and it was very powerful. But the difference to listening to 528 hertz and using the Lovetuner is you become your own instrument. You are really vibing, and we measure this so it aligns your water molecules. The frequency not only goes into your body, it goes out of your body up to 8 feet, so with like 2.5 meters. And this is why tuning with a partner or tuning in a group is so powerful. Like you really connect.
Yeah, right. I mean, I highly believe that you resonate. It resonates beyond internal because I think I talked about this. So when I first started using it, and I still use it regularly, and by the way, of course, you have to keep doing it. For those of you who are listening, it's just like saying, oh, I'm going to eat healthy for 3 weeks and then I'm going to eat McDonald's every day. It doesn't work like that. Like you just got to make it a part of your life. Um, but I was noticing other people's reaction to me. And that was the really cool thing because I knew how I was vibing, but I was affecting the energy of people around me, where people kind of smile at you. You know how it is. You go, like a lot of times you go out these days, there's road rage and people who are always rushing, and it was like a different response. People would just look over and smile in the grocery store, and it's like you were saying, it's contagious.
It is. It is. Because you literally vibe higher. That's what it is. And people are attracted to it. And the story what you was just telling, like a lot of people tell me, like I go out and I go in a supermarket and people smile at me. Do you think it's related to the love tuner? And I said, it's not the love tuner, it's you. You are vibrating higher because of what you do. If you find something else that makes you vibrate higher, that's great. But in this case, I know where it's coming from. But it's literally the person. And and they vibrate higher and they have like better experiences. And this like the most thing what people tell me is people smile at me or
Mm.
they want to have a communication, because yeah, it's like if you turn on the light, like somebody goes in the darkness and somebody turns on the light. And this is the beauty of 528 hertz in it's it doesn't allow anything negative. It's like darkness cannot exist in the light. This is the whole concept of 528 hertz. And it's this living frequency that whatever, and I don't want to sound religious, but it's a divine frequency and it does miracles.
So what would be, because we've touched on a lot, but I just want to make sure that it's clear, because people are seeing a lot of these ads on TikTok, like you see all these like ads. This is not the same. And Sigmar, I would love for you to explain the difference so that people know that it's not, you did touch on it, but it's clearly not the same. Oh, and I remembered what I wanted to say. The one thing I noticed about Lovetuner, and it's really, really cool, because when you're tuning, I hear it in my ears afterwards. So it's really weird. Like the first time I did it, I was like, okay, that's interesting, because there's a difference between listening to music, like you said, the song Imagine, John Lennon, and it's sure it gives you a good feeling inside when you hear it. But with Love Tuner, you're doing the breath work, and then it's almost like my ears and everything kind of becomes attuned to that frequency. Does that sound right? Like normal? I don't know.
That's normal. That's really normal because you literally, this little tool, when you have it in your mouse, it literally vibrates and your entire
Yes.
with vibration. And this is why people sometimes say, oh, I feel like it electrified me, I feel like vibing and I still hear it afterwards. And when people tune a lot, they tell me also a story. They go outside. I was just in Hawaii and we did a tuning in the jungle. And one person stopped and said, listen, the trees are doing it already. And we tuned into these trees and this jungle setup. And it was unbelievable because you hear this frequency. And the more you in tune with, you pick it up in nature. You go like, that's 528 hertz because it's there. It's right there.
So cool.
And that's the beautiful thing. And it's like, when we launched, we didn't do any marketing or anything. This was not my purpose because Love Tuna is more than a product. It's really a love and peace mission. And as you explained earlier, I did different businesses that gave me also the possibility not to jump in there and sell thousands right away and make advertising and so on. So the first couple of years, we only did research. So we went into schools. So we have this people that work with us. They're called Lovetuner team writers. They're advocates. They help us, to spread the love. Let's call it in this way. And me personally, I went even into elementary schools, local schools here, and we learned kids how to tune. So this was the first thing, and as this was very new when we started, I said, where do we get the real feedback? Because whomever you show it to, people who are spiritually advanced, they go like, yeah, I totally understand. I know solfeggio frequencies, I know Tesla, I know everything, and I have the spiritual understanding. But kids, they don't care. They have no layers, they have no filters. They go like, yeah, or they go like, nay. So that's what it is. And I remember the first time we did it, it was a local elementary school. We sit down, it was loud in the classroom, and we started tuning. And in no time, every kid picked up the tune and they all tuned. And what happened afterwards was unbelievable. Within one semester, we eliminated bullying in all classrooms where they tuned. The grades went up, and the kids had an overall better understanding. Like it was, like kids go to the same class. It doesn't mean necessarily that they're best friends. But after tuning, they accepted not even like being best friends, but hey, we are one group. We are all one. We are one classroom. We are one school. And this was beautiful to see. And the interesting part is that the kids stick with this more than the teachers. Because for teachers, they're so in their routine already. And then we teamed up. So I have a foundation, it's called the Lovetuner Foundation, where we really donate a lot of love tuners into the school systems. We give it to underprivileged children. We work with veterans to overcome PTSD, and it's really working, and also with suicide prevention. But the most interesting thing is we are supporting another charity, what is actually, and they call it Educate the Educator. And it's a system where they basically try to educate the teachers
Hmm.
to mindfulness to the classrooms, because this is the biggest problem that we have, like that our society is so set in their ways that it's not the kids. The kids do everything what they like to do, and this is a positive thing. But often it's the adults and the teachers that just don't get it. This is why this education is so important. And yeah, and as I said, this is what we did for many years. And then we got commercial a little bit successful, and we got more and more successful. And obviously, at this point, a lot of copycats came out. And the first ones was like these people that whatever came up with stories about monks using metal straws and doing breath work. It's just like, yeah, it's a great concept of marketing, but there's not much behind it. And it's like, we have our product patent, and there's a lot of knowledge behind it. There's a lot of passion behind it. And there's also a lot of spiritual wisdom behind it. So people don't get fooled out as there's a lot of products out there because it's hip right now. Frequency, vibration, breath work, that's the thing. But just be careful that you don't waste the money.
That's good to know. And um, I think that it works because I've been using it for a while. And I do know that it's available throughout, like it's worldwide shipping, right? Like you ship worldwide.
Yeah, we have fulfillment center in Europe, in the States, and also in South America. And it's lovetuner.com. I think in the States we ship free shipping nationwide. So yeah, and it's also on Amazon, but lovetuner.com is the right source.
It's an amazing device. I can attest. And most people who listen to me know that when I get very excited about it, something, it's hard for me to contain that. So, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to touch on? I think we had a really great conversation about this, but I just want to make sure if you have any last words.
Yeah, I mean, like when it comes to science and about the background of the love tuner and in general frequency and healing, I would recommend people to check out my book because it's really like it's a little bit about the story of love tuner, but it's mainly about the knowledge about frequency and how to integrate it into your life. Like mindfulness in the corporate world, mindfulness in your own family. It's also talks a lot about music. So it's on Amazon. It's called One Journey, the Love Tuner book. And I think it's a great addition to have a love tuner to get, the background information and also integrate it in your life correctly.
Yes, for sure. Let's see if we can get my husband to try it, Sigmar. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. He's pretty open about most things, but it's only because I advocate for them. So I will keep you posted.
Good vibes of women, you need to spread it also into the male world.
Exactly. It's all about that feminine, masculine energy balance, right? Thank you so much, Sigmar. I really, really loved my conversation with you. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you for being such a running advocate for the Lovetuner. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I love your show, and that you make a lot of people happy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I hit